Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Mustard Seed. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Ryan.
I'm Josh.
Join us on our journey.
It's Wednesday morning. You know what that means. We're back at it. Hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. Back at it. I had a good Thanksgiving. How about you guys? You guys had a good turkey day?
Yeah.
Yeah, solid turkey day.
Yeah, it was nice. I went upstate and saw my family, which was great because I don't see them very often. So it was good for the kids and, you know, the farm. Didn't spend a lot of time outside. And it was nice.
Yeah, it was good. It felt so fast, at least for me, because we got there around like 3, and then when you're leaving, we had to leave for bedtime. So it was just like, I felt like I blinked.
Yeah.
It was a quick day. But it was a great weekend. I felt like it was just a nice little refresh.
Yeah, it was a long day for me because we hosted. And the cooking was happening at my house, and it started at 9 a.m. So it was just a very long day. And I think everyone left around 10:30.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, I'm tired.
A lot goes into hosting, that's for sure. How'd you do the turkey?
Oven.
Oven?
Yeah. I'm hoping to get, it's Christmas coming up. I want a slow cooker.
Yes.
For Christmas. Like, I'm really into barbecuing lately. So, like, I think, like, I want to step it up and do a slow cooker and, like, cook a brisket in it and just, like, learn how to do that. Become a pit boss.
Right. Yes. Get like a cool apron and everything. Yeah, those are neat. I can't wait to be able to have now is the slow cooker the like the green egg I'm thinking of, or is that something different too? You know, the green egg?
Did I say slow cooker?
Well, slow cooker.
I meant a smoker.
Yeah.
Well, that's a slow cooker.
Oh,
yeah,
it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
The green egg
put
is
it
like
in
one
for
of the
like 8
brands.
hours. A green egg is I think it's charcoal, and it's a big ceramic thing. Apparently, like, it cooks the best, like, steaks on it. A lot of people say that. It's a lot of money, but maybe one day.
Oh, it's a cool investment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait for that. One day we'll have a house and I can actually barbecue.
Yeah, that's great. It's a lot of fun.
Been doing
I like
it
to
a
do it
lot.
too. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite, like, go-to food that you can throw on the grill? I mean,
I've been, honestly, since I started my weight loss, I've been cooking a lot of steaks.
yeah.
A lot of steaks. So what I do, because steaks are so expensive these days, it's like $45. And so I wait and I see, like, where it's that day where they're like, oh, you have, so I go to the grocery store and they're like selling it for $17, normal prices for the steaks. And I buy it and then I cook it that day.
Gotcha.
Yeah, when it's on clearance.
Yeah.
Like they try to get rid of it as fast as possible because it's the last day.
Yeah. So I'll buy like 2 of them, freeze one, and then.
There you go.
Nice.
Very good.
Got it down to a
Swear to
system.
God.
I always do like chicken quarters, so it'll be like the thigh and like the whole part there, like the leg and the drumstick and the thigh, because it's like very juicy and good. So
Yeah.
I'm into that.
I found I like the Tasty app. Have you guys ever used the Tasty app? You might see like their videos on Facebook a lot where it's just like the hands cooking,
Probably.
like the videos of the but they have really good recipes. I found like a really good steak recipe on there with like the seasonings. And like it's like a paprika, cumin, like it's like kind of like a Mexican type of seasoning. It's so good.
Nice.
I've done it before. It's really good.
My friend from work, shout out Cece, he told me to get this thing where it's a Bluetooth and you put like you put it in your meat,
Like
and
the
like
thermometer?
you can check, you can
Yes.
check your phone and like tells you like, okay, it's medium rare, take it out.
Those things are so helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll probably go such a long way.
Isn't it crazy? It's like now you just check your phone instead of like sticking a thermometer in and just like getting kind of probably a false reading. Like, oh, this side says, it's ready. This side says it's freezing, even though it's all been in at the same time.
It's funny you said that because we actually just got a food thermometer a couple weeks ago, and I realized we had it. So I started using it when I was cooking chicken the other night, and yeah, like it just never, it just didn't feel accurate.
Yeah.
Like because the numbers kept moving, and then if you moved it, it was different.
And that's how you overcook things, and it's just like
Yeah.
a little dry or whatever. But
It does help though.
Yeah, I've always had good luck with them. I've used them for years. But
I feel like I have more of since I've been like grilling a lot. I have now more of a just like you know how people can just wake up and they don't need that alarm. Like I just have that sense when I'm cooking. Like I know like even though I like walk away and I'm inside like cleaning something, I like gotta run back and I'm like, all right, about to be flipped.
Yep.
And it's
nice. There you go. Iron Chef Andrew.
good.
Exactly. Internal. When are you gonna go on Food Network and challenge the Iron Chefs?
Bobby Flay, I'm coming for you.
Steaks with Andrew.
Yeah.
I miss a good Food Network. That's something that I feel like I haven't, without cable, I haven't been able to really like watch. That was like a go-to.
Oh, yeah.
The Food Network and HGTV. It was like if nothing was
Yeah,
on, just throw
yeah.
on those channels.
It was like just like chill to watch and just have in the background. Like
Yeah, exactly.
and I struggle with watching Food Network though because I always get so hungry. I always gotta go in the kitchen after watching.
Yeah. Roddy came home the other night with cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory.
Oh man,
Whew.
yeah,
Cheesecake Factory cheesecakes are so good.
so good.
I didn't-
Red velvet is like amazing. I love
Everything,
red velvet.
yeah, so good. I didn't realize how big the slices were.
It's huge. Yeah.
Like we had a gift card, so we used it, but it was like $20 for 2 slices of cheesecake. I was like,
Well,
oh.
that's like their whole thing is they just have massive meals. Like even like
Yes.
their dinners and stuff.
Mm.
Like their entrees are huge. It's
Huge.
like the calorie counts are like massive. Like
Yeah, but Cheesecake Factory is very good.
yeah.
So what's new in the world? What do we got going on these days?
There's a lot. Well, you guys got Christmas up. Christmas is
Yes.
around the corner
Mhm.
where, you know, December will be over faster than we know it.
Exactly.
That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, we're 2 weeks into Advent already.
Yeah.
Which now you say that's we're halfway there.
Yeah, halfway there.
Crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the world. What were we talking about? What's the name of that thing that I mentioned? That children's thing that everyone...
Balenciaga.
Balenciaga.
So Balenciaga is connected with Adidas, and I think there
Are
are
they?
other
It's
brands.
like a fashion.
And it's
brand,
kind
right?
of funny that they... Well, you know, we're not going to... Kanye's a little nuts, but they got rid of him for stuff, and then this has such, like... From what you see and you, like, pick apart, there's such evil intentions in it. Like, you see the devil in a picture. You see the 666. You see demons and... inappropriate children stuff, and it's just like crazy.
So what was this whole like? Was this just a marketing campaign that they put out for just like their new clothes, like clothing line?
I
Like
guess it's a clothing line. I don't know. It's like children's, like a children's line, and it's just it looks like they're selling it just looks horrible.
whoa,
Yeah, that's what it was. It was like that's what got really crazy because it was on Kim Kardashian's whatever, and it was like a photo shoot with a bunch of kids in it, showing different kind of like fashion and outfits for kids, and some of it was just kind of hinted at being kind of promiscuous and very inappropriate for young kids to be a part of.
And
Yeah.
if
That was
you
the
look
whole
at
thing.
the one picture, there's just like a bunch of different symbols that are just like, whoa, what is happening here?
Yeah.
And
And they got backlash, and that's good that they got
Yeah.
backlash.
people are waking up.
Yeah.
And Bale is like supposed to be involved in that, like the god, like we've talked about him before on the show of like with Elijah going to prove that he was fake god, a false god. And you know what's funny, like I named my son Elijah. You have a son named Elijah, Josh. And when Elijah was born, he was born and there was that drought that was happening, and Elijah is involved with the drought. And now like me and Jess are just noticing all these weird things that are happening because he was born when like the drought, New York had this drought, and then now the Bale's back in the picture somehow. It's just a little weird.
Elijah's got some big
Yeah,
things to
Elijah's
take
got
care
things
of.
he's got to take care of. He's like just learned how to lift his head, and now he's like, oh, really? I got to take down Bale.
There you go. Love it.
It is. I did see the pictures that we were talking about, and just dark, scary, like dark.
The
Like,
black hoodies and the...
I didn't realize that I was actually for a children's line of clothes. I thought it was just like their marketing and advertising. But yeah, so the way Bal is connected to it is that Balenciaga this is what I saw on Twitter, which translated to Baal is king. So that's the name Balenciaga was what it means.
Yeah.
So it was wild. It's like, I think about it sometimes. I've said it to V before when we've listened through the Bible in a year, and like the Old Testament, when you read the Old Testament, it could sound so crazy, and you're like, oh, like wow, like all these things that they were doing throughout the Old Testament, and it's like we're not too far away from that today. Sometimes, like I think you can put that into context.
If you got your head in the news, it's not much different. Like, you know,
No.
if you're really in it, but. Yeah, it's a scary time, definitely. But it's good that this came to light, because I think hopefully people will wake up to the backlash and will start to, hopefully call it out more.
And you start to wonder, like, how much more of this goes on subtly, or things that we just don't know about, because
there's so many subtle messages and things like subliminal
messages.
that word. Messages and things like crafting our. We can talk about all the false gods too. Like right now, like there's example BTS. They call themselves idols, and they're like looked at as gods and worshipped by these people, and that's scary itself. And there's so many like different like celebrities or influencers that are out there. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm seeing if with the score with the Ohio State to get in to the champ. Yeah, we gotta. Yeah, sorry.
But I think
Put my
that's the
phone
nature
over.
of who we are, right? Like we as a people, like we're worshipers, regardless. Like we worship things, and whether it's hopefully it's God, what we were made to worship. But if we don't believe in God and if we don't follow Him, then we're gonna worship things in the world, things that we like, or things that we're
And it's like that's everyone's marketing strategies too,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
like
No.
get people to it. I saw it on LinkedIn the other day where they talked about some big brands, and basically the premise of the post was that brands that are successful basically are selling like a lifestyle. Like it's not just like a convenient product; it's a lifestyle that you're embracing. So yes, I think we need to be a little bit more cautious of like what are these brands that we're kind of like really embracing, because it goes so deep, right? So this whole Balenciaga thing, Ronnie was telling me about the kind of like the owner of it, or the guy who created it. They're millionaires, right? They have their hands in so many different brands. But you think the thing that I'm thinking about now is like these people have so much money, like money that they probably don't even know what to do with. So yeah, I think they're going to blur their lines as far as what is good and what is not okay. And like the things that they get into just because they probably can, because they have the money to do it, and it doesn't matter. It is dangerous for us as just a society. It's crazy. Yeah. It's like, how close are we to the Hunger Games? I mean,
maybe not that far off,
right?
Who knows? But something to that. The root of all evil, right? Money. When there's something about that. When you gain all this power and wealth, it just turns you into Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. It's just easy to blur the lines for sure. We actually had a conversation that was off of a conversation. So James and Teresa were together for Thanksgiving with Teresa's family. So they were talking to us about their Thanksgiving and everything. And there was a conversation that I wanted to kind of bring up with you guys too. The conversation that they were having was the idea of heaven and does everyone go to heaven type of deal. And it was very interesting. And it was fun to just kind of talk and listen to everyone's different inputs on things. Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting thought in the sense that I was right. Everyone can kind of have conversations about a topic, and it's almost like you can be, just like with anything, it's like you can extract certain things from a certain argument and it can sound correct in its own like niche. But in the whole grand scheme of things, it's like, well, what do we actually believe as Catholics, right? Like, because the reason I say that is like thinking about the idea of like everyone gets to heaven. Like you want to have this nice thought in a sense that, well, God loves all of us, right? We're all his people. So why would he let his people go to hell type of deal? So it's like you're always going to have that choice or that chance to get to heaven. But then the flip side of it, which I've been getting to and thinking about a little bit more too, as well, is that at some point in time, we all need to answer to our choices. Like, we're not just gonna walk away like unscathed. Like, I can just do whatever I want throughout my life on earth and just be okay with the idea of like, well, I'll be forgiven and I'll get to heaven. So it was an interesting thought, and I was just curious, like, where you guys, or if you've ever thought about something like that, and because I know I have, and I've thought of it in the way of like, I'll have a chance for forgiveness. You know, like how many times do I find myself just being like, oh, it's okay. Like I know it's not my ultimate choice, but you don't realize how like those little choices can create bigger choices down the line. So it was just interesting. It was an interesting conversation.
So, one thing you said is the choice that we have free will, and the perfect example of that is Adam. Is Adam in heaven? Think about that. There's one king. There's two kings, right? Adam was the first king, and then Jesus is the second king that to take care of everything and fix everything for us to get us into heaven. Adam was gifted a perfect life. He had the task of taking care of the garden, and it wasn't good enough for him, and he didn't listen to God and was cast out. So you can look at it that way. And then Jesus had to come, and once Adam did that, we were all born with sin, and then Jesus had to come and pave that way into heaven to fix that mistake that Adam did.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm sorry, Josh. One thing the Catholic Church I wish that they preach more on is like hell, like the scariness of hell. And like, I feel like too many people these days like take it as like a joke, and you say like dumb things like, oh, what the hell? Like just say that. No, it's a damning place, and we shouldn't even say that, or even like, mention it. Just try to, I don't know.
No,
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying for sure, because you're right. Like it's almost downplayed to a sense where it doesn't feel like it's a consequence.
It's to a thing where you go HE double hockey sticks, and this is like the most scariest place in the,
that our minds can't even fathom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like eternal separation from God, which we cannot experience on this world. So we don't know what it would possibly be like, the pain and torment of what it could be. But yeah, that's so true, Andrew. Like people don't really talk about it. People don't really talk about it anymore, because I think people have kind of forgotten that, because, we kind of were talking about the last time, or maybe 2 podcasts ago, this kind of nature of like our society, like the ultimate virtue has become like comfort, right? And so comfort has kind of almost become like the God that secular culture is worshiping. And so because of that, like we don't want to hear that things we do are wrong. So then all of a sudden moral objectivity is out of the window. Like that isn't even a discussion anymore, because everything is relative. Everything is this relativistic viewpoint where it's like my truth and your truth. And like we can, defer from that, which is ridiculous. But because of that, I think that the whole nature of consequence for your actions and for sin is like not even a discussion anymore. Like, or people don't feel that way about it anymore. But in reality, it's, we believe it to be true as Catholics. There is hell. We want God to save everybody. We want everybody to be saved. We don't want everybody to get to heaven. Mm-hmm. But
that's where our free will comes in.
And he wants us too. He wants us to get to heaven. He wants everybody to get to heaven. In the catechism and theology, it's something called the universal salvific will of the Father. His ultimate desire is for everybody to get to heaven. But ultimately, we have that free will where we can make those decisions and to choose him or choose something else. And when we choose something else, there's consequences for that.
And one thing you said that was interesting, and I've been feeling this way a lot lately, is like how like we know something's wrong and we don't want to be told it, and like we're just like try to push it off, and like someone is trying to help you get to the place you're supposed to be, but you're still like, no, it's really not that bad. Like I can do this. Like I can example, like I don't know, drinking or something like that, where like you shouldn't be like doing that every weekend, but you're still got that other ear like, oh, it's not that bad. Everyone does it. And you see all these commercials that make things that aren't supposed to be so I'm stuck here.
No, I know exactly. It's like normalized.
Yeah,
in a way where
normalized,
it's just
yeah,
like
perfect.
yes.
Trying to
Yes.
justify your
Yeah.
actions.
Yes.
You're trying to like justify everything. And the thing is too is like we have such division in the world where like we can like retreat from people who disagree with us and then find people who like will affirm us. You know what I mean? And so that's a big issue too. Is like if I'm hurt by what you said, even though it may or not be true about this thing. Maybe I'm an alcoholic, and like you yelling at me and saying drinking is bad. Like maybe I disagree with you, so I'm gonna find people who agree with me who are also alcoholics,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna feel better about it. Feel better about
or you
myself
look at someone like, oh, I'm not as bad as him.
Well, yeah,
I'm
exactly.
fine over here.
Right? No, definitely.
That's I think that's one thing a lot of people do. Like they always like look at someone else. Like if they have a problem, they're like, well, look at this guy over there. Like I'm fine. I'm not doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
But then meanwhile, you're still, damaging your soul.
Yeah, what is that line in the Gospels? Like, why are you telling your brother about the stick in his eye when you got a log in your eye? Yeah, it is. Yeah, you guys all brought up a lot of great points, and it's interesting. I think that's a big part of society today, and like that's why I feel like conversations like these don't necessarily take place as much because, one, people don't want to be disagreed with or told in a sense that
just conflict,
it's going
right?
to be hard, right? Like our Catholic faith is hard. Like it's not necessarily like the things that we need to choose in life. Like, yeah, it's not the popular thing, so that makes it hard. And it's so easy now, like you're saying too, Josh, with the whole idea of finding people who agree with you. Like that's what I feel like social media has definitely created. You can find an avenue for anything. So regardless of if it's good or if it's bad, like there's a community for it, and you can dive into it and embrace it. And even Andrew, like you brought up the point, like, is Adam in heaven? And at first I'm like, yeah, of course he's in heaven. But then I was like, wait a second, like, can we think about that for a second? Like, is that like a real thought to really like, you know what I mean? Like, because you're right, like hell is not necessarily like talked about as much as I feel like maybe it should be, or it could be, in a sense of like, this is a real consequence that can potentially happen. So embrace that and understand that. And then in that same light, it's like, wait, like Adam made a bad decision. Like, but I don't know. I don't think that Adam would be in hell, right? Because that's something that was forgiven with God. And I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but there are many circumstances that I think we can sit here and say,
you just got to
like,
think he was cast out of.
Yeah, actually, I don't know
Perfect
what
place.
the teaching is on Adam and where he's at right now. I think
Because he was one
he's
of the
a
first
saint,
ones.
right? So
right, that's what I thought
So-
too, in a sense of that he's like one of our fathers in heaven, right?
yeah.
Like,
but I
first
mean,
father.
obviously he, brought sin into the world through him. And
So when you
and
say it
Eve.
like
so
that-
there's some consequences there.
He's the
but-
reason why we're wearing clothes right now.
yeah, I could be naked.
Do you imagine? But,
I'd be freezing.
yeah. But one thing I wanted to say too was maybe a month ago or 2 months ago, I just read Dante's Inferno. Which
You
I don't
did?
know if you
Okay.
guys ever read Dante's Inferno.
I've heard pieces of it. I
Oh.
haven't dove in.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It was very good, but it like put the fear of hell into me. Like,
Because that's what it is. It's talks about hell,
it's
right?
talking about hell and like kind of, but it's fictional, so it's like his idea of what hell would be like. But man, it's just brutal, and so just like remembering what hell is and what it's supposed to be, really helped me look into my own life and just to see how my actions are affecting myself, my family, the church, and my relationship with God. And I feel like it's really important for us to always reflect on that, to reflect on death and on hell and obviously heaven and hell. And I don't think we should ever focus too much on those things, because I think that it pulls us away from the good. But I think it's always important to just keep that in mind, and that because it'll influence your decisions.
It can guide positive
It'll guide
actions
you.
for
Yeah,
sure, right?
Yeah.
I think the one thing we're trying to get across is like, they made hell seem like, oh, it's just, yeah, if you do this, you're going to hell. If you steal this, it's much bigger than that little threat. It's not like how you're telling a toddler, like, if you don't go to bed, I'm going to take your toy. Like, that's what it turned into almost, I feel like, with examples, spelling it H-E double hockey
Well,
sticks.
the whole fire and brimstone, and then the flip reverse where it's like, oh, God is ultimately merciful, so like there's no way like he would do that. So we kind of seen both of that, and we've heard those arguments and all that stuff. But it's just always important for us to remember like what the church teaches, and then even what Christ says, right? So in Matthew, he says, the way is narrow, and that many will try, but few will be saved, and that's a hard teaching. And but we also believe in the mercy of the Father and His divine will and His universal salvific will, and so there's all of that to hold on to. And just for us as Catholics, like we know we're bound by the sacraments, right? And we know what we're supposed to do. And then when we do what we're supposed to do, and then when we don't, when we screw up, we ask for forgiveness, and we dust ourselves off and try again with the hope of eternal life. And that's what we're called to,
Like some of Jesus's sayings, like when he said like the eye of the needle, and even though like we discovered it was the door and it was narrow, like you would think, like when you don't look up that stuff, you think like the needle head, like how thin it is, like that's how hard it is to get into heaven. Like that always scared me, like before, like, diving more into the Bible and just like realizing how God is our savior and he's there for us, and how he shedded his blood for us and all that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's both and, it's like recognizing that hell is horrible. We don't want to go there, and people will go there. But like also just remembering that God is good. He's all powerful. He's all loving. If you seek His will and His goodness, you're fine. And so just remembering that and kind of keeping that in your mind and in your decisions and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think the beauty of it all is that we have the church teachings to go to really learn all of this, right? Like it's great to discuss, but then to find the answers, they're there. And I think that can be why a lot is pushed away, because kind of like what you touched on earlier, it's just like, I don't want to be told that I can't live eternal life in heaven. Like you can't tell me that. Like I'm going to enjoy my life and do what I can, and then, answer to it when I have to. But yeah, I think it is a positive thing to have like both in your hands at the same time. The idea that hell is an existing thing, that I might end up being in that situation, or the idea that there's heaven and God wants to save us. So it's like those two things together can help guide positive actions. Because it's like once when you separate the two, and it's just like you're fixated on the idea of like, I don't want to go to hell, like that can cause some tough answers.
Probably, exactly.
But then if it's like you're fixated on the idea of like, well, I'm going to get to heaven, like God loves me, then that leads to a dangerous road as well. So it's like that togetherness is what's important.
The narrow, the in between there, it's kind of having a balance of the two.
Yeah,
because there is an issue if you reflect too much on hell and on your own decisions, and I'm afraid of the sin that I just committed. I have to go to confession again, like every single day. I got to go to confession, because we call that scrupulosity, and you don't want that
live
either.
like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's the far end of that spectrum, where I'm just in fear of every decision that I make. But then ultimately, it's just coming back, remembering, there's this line, I forget from what book I read recently, but it was like, it's not that you aren't as bad as you think you are. It's just that you don't believe in the mercy of the Father. Like if you just remember how good God is and how much He loves you and how merciful that He is, and just seek that, like that's everything.
Yeah.
That's heavy
It's
stuff,
deep.
man.
Yeah, I know.
That's
I
heavy
was thinking
stuff.
about it. It's good. And that's what is cool about like our faith too, is that I don't necessarily think, I mean, maybe there is, but it's just like there are so many ways to learn more and to like guide your actions more in a sense. And that conversation of heaven and hell can be one of those ways to guide your actions in a more positive light.
And one thing that you were that we were saying is like how we don't want to be told, and you're like, oh, if I do this, I'll go to. Well, the one person who told us that we're forgetting is it's right there in is Jesus, God Himself.
Yeah,
So like,
You did tell us,
Yeah.
right? I'm excited for the catechism in a year coming up because I know of these things, but not as deep as I probably would like to. So it's going to be neat to be able to hear it, especially from Father Mike and how he can kind of interpret things very well. So I think that's great for us as a society to have a chance to listen to what it is that our church really teaches us, because I do think there are a lot of struggles, right? Like we've talked about this before, of just embracing the church and kind of aligning with the church. I think people are struggling with that sometimes. So it'll be great to be able to hear more about it, and then to really understand, like, ultimately all of these things are for good, right? Like being told no on certain things, it's for good, right? Like going through Exodus and taking a cold shower or saying no to meat on Fridays and making these certain sacrifices, like, are for ultimate goods.
Yeah,
so you
'cause
could
it's-
translate that to so much.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just a checklist of rules, right? Like this is how you experience freedom. This is how you experience freedom, is by choosing the right, option. And obviously it's hard. It's hard as hell. It really is. It really, really is. But that's what it leads to. And I feel like that's what oftentimes what people do is they will say like, oh, like, well, Catholicism is just a list of do's and don'ts. But the reality is like we're trying to show, like, the church has this lifestyle of freedom that they're offering, and the world is offering the same thing, and they're saying this is freeing, but it's not. Like, so it's just like this. You know what I'm saying? I'm like losing
Yeah,
the
no,
words. Where it's like we're told that if we live by the world, if we live by our own desires and all this stuff, like that's freeing. But ultimately, that's the thing that's not freeing, and that's the thing that puts us in chains. But it's controlling ourselves, and it's making those decisions for God that are the things that truly free us.
Definitely. It's never fully satisfying.
Right.
That world,
That's what I'm
choosing
trying to
what the
say.
world
Yeah,
is.
exactly.
And to put it in, I feel like something like just context, like Andrew, like you just lost so much weight, right? And how you feel, like, I mean, I could see it, just the way you walk around and just you feel like free, right? And through that process, there were a lot of difficult choices, right? And it was always like, well, I can just take the easy route and kind of continue to just enjoy whatever it is that I'm enjoying, and then ultimately I'm not going to feel that great. But it's like those little sacrifices that you've made created this sustainable lifestyle that you feel really good about. And I feel like that can be just like a great example of like what our faith is in a way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing though too is like I think I lost my thought, but one thing I think a lot of people go to church and they're not like embracing the Lord, and that's the one thing. Like, you need to embrace God. Like, you're not just going there just to go through the motions. Like, that's one thing, like, I feel like a lot of people do. Like, they just go as a routine. Like, you need to really bring in God into your heart, and you can reach him on the toilet. Even you can reach him anywhere. You can reach him in the kitchen. Like, it doesn't just have to be in that one building. It can be anywhere where you can just sit down and pray and just feel the presence of God. That's just one thing I wanted to really get across. Like, you really need to feel the power of the church, is to feel God in the church and to feel that presence and just to be one with it.
I can definitely relate to that
Yeah.
because I know there was a moment in my life, like throughout college and stuff, where I was just going through the motions, you know?
Oh, I feel like a lot of people do that. I've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then when you can get to that point where all of a sudden that hour that you spend at mass means more, because you realize, wait, this is an opportunity for me to be close with Christ, right? To give him that time of worship and to be able to just fully in his presence worship and praise and thanksgiving for his sacrifice and the sacrifice of the mass, and then to take a piece of that and bring it with you for the week. Like, that's just so rewarding. And yeah, there were times where it was just like, kind of just went through the motions because I knew that that's what I had to do. But then I look back sometimes now and I realize, like, I'm thankful that I was going through the motions, because even when I was going through the motions,
You're still there, but
and God was still working in my
Yeah.
life without me even realizing it, right? So
yeah.
it's like it's almost like an example of just the more you make the best ability is availability, and if you're just constantly available and putting yourselves in front of it, like, it will touch you. And that's what I think for us as Catholics, like I think our ultimate job and what we can really do to make an impact on the world is to bring people to Jesus, because he's going to be the one that's going to
Yep.
fully turn your heart.
Yeah,
you know?
and I will say too that I just watched this interview with Dr. Scott Hahn. He was on Pints with Aquinas. He just wrote this book about how to be holy, and his whole thing is like, I think it was a really crazy interview. So I really recommend I'll throw it in the description. Maybe I'll like cut a little bit to it, but he just completely opened my eyes to the nature of holiness. He was saying that like, oftentimes when you think about a holy person, you just think about the stuff that they do, right? Oh, this person goes to mass every Sunday. This person goes to daily mass. They go to confession. They pray the rosary often. Like, you have a list of all that for this is what makes a person holy. But his argument was like, no, it doesn't. Like holiness belongs to God, and only God can be holy. You cannot be holy. You should be striving for holiness through experiencing the sacraments and praying and drawing near to God. But those actions shouldn't be like I shouldn't be doing these things to just appear holy or to like achieve holiness, because I'm not going to do that in this world. Like I'm only will and if I reach heaven with God. And so that really stuck with me, because like I think oftentimes when we kind of really embrace our Catholic faith and we get really excited about the devotions and all these things and the sacraments and experiencing it, it kind of almost builds up our pride a little bit. We kind of puff up a bit. I know I have, especially. To the point where it's like it almost becomes like theater. Like you want people to see what you're doing, or they want to see what your family's like, or like all this stuff. But ultimately, like that doesn't equal holiness. Like holiness is loving the Lord, seeking His will, and suffering and embracing suffering in a good way, recognizing that the Lord is with you and all that. So I just wanted to say that too, I guess.
Yeah. I love the word strive. And I think that if that can sum up everything and like the things that we're trying to talk about here, it's like, it's just a constant strive, like, and striving for holiness or striving for what God wants for us. It's like to seek Him, because that's it. I think at the end of the day, like there are so many different things that we talk about at different times, but I think the root of it is always just, if we're constantly striving to get closer to God or striving for that relationship, like, we're going to be moving in a good direction regardless of what it is, So I love that. I think that that's something that we can just keep doing every day. Strive.
Yeah. Good stuff.
One thing too, that you mentioned that I lost a ton of weight. One thing I did almost every day was like pray to God and just like thank Him for my weight loss journey and just like giving me the strength to get through it. And I think that was one major part of like me being able to do it. I've taken off 120 pounds.
Wow.
So,
Awesome.
That's great. A little bit of this.
It is cool.
I went from a 5X to an extra large. So
Wow.
I'm pumped.
That's pretty awesome, man. That's
Good
really
job,
good.
Andrew. That's great.
That's great. And to do it the way you did it, and that's cool to hear that there was, a lot of prayer and faith that went into that, because yeah, I'm sure it's not easy. Like I've been there. I know what it like feels like to kind of get to a point where you're just like, this isn't it. This isn't how I want it to be. And to try and like stay consistent through that process, like to get to that point is not easy. So
when I was my highest, I was like almost at a point where I was just like, oh, whatever, it is what it is. And I hit a point in the summer where I was just like, I had a wake up call, and I was just like, all right, I got to do something. I got to be around for my children. I got to live longer than I was, because I was on route to probably die by 40, being as big as I was, almost 400 pounds. And so I'm just glad I did. I'm glad I was able to, find a way to do it. I didn't have to go surgery route. I didn't have to do anything, even though people are spreading fake rumors about me at work saying I got surgery. I don't care. Whatever makes them happy, but feels good. I'll say one thing, my back hurts a lot.
really,
yeah, I don't know why. My back is like hurting a lot since I like took off the weight. Maybe my bones got to like reset in this new body, but
I've really wanted to, and maybe now have someone to do it with. I've always wanted to go to like a chiropractor and just kind of
Yeah,
get like
I always
realigned.
wanted to do that
like,
too.
I
I
feel
watch
that.
those videos, but sometimes I'm scared of them because the way they pull the neck and
Yeah,
stuff.
my
it's
gosh.
just
I
like-
don't wanna, yeah.
and they like take these giant hammers and boom, boom, boom.
Oh man.
I have a friend who's like really, really into it. Like,
Really?
Like a good friend of mine. Yeah. So he like did this whole thing for like 6 months or something. Where like he got realigned his back and his neck and all this stuff, and he thinks it's the greatest thing in the world. So
Did he get taller?
I don't know. I don't know if
I've
he got
seen
taller.
videos of that
Maybe,
where they're like,
yeah.
"Oh, the foots are 1 foot is bigger." So if and then by the end of it, after cracking them all, he was like normal foot and a little taller. Which is like,
Oh.
I just realize how bad my posture is at most times.
Yeah.
Like, especially when I'm sitting there and I'm like working on the computer and I'm just like, what am I doing? I'm trying.
that's the worst. Like I start off here and then like I'm leaning.
Yeah, lean forward. Yeah.
Or even when I drive, I realize that too. I'm like a little
Yeah.
hunched. It's
Gotta
not
be
great.
careful. We're gonna get that hump back here.
Yeah, I know that.
We're
Don't
gonna
want
turn
that.
into Quasimodo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot a dad
I
joke.
was gonna ask you if you had one.
I was running around my bed because I had to catch up on my sleep.
Did you need a napkin? Ketchup and mustard. Can't beat the classics.
Good one.
Nice. I had another interesting topic that I came across this week also that I'm curious what you guys feel or think about. So Ryan Bonomi sent this to me. We were talking about, so he came across a podcast. It was by The Ringer, and they were talking about like statistics, and since 2013, there has been a drastic decline in the amount of time that people spend with friends and companions. And there's been an increase in time spent alone. And this is from 2013 where this decline has started. So it's even pre-COVID. So an interesting thought that there is more in a tendency, and it doesn't surprise me to hear that more and more people prefer to be alone. And when you think about kind of the world and what's available to us, a lot of it is kind of conducive to a very alone-some type of life, right? Like everything that we essentially want or like the things that we use as entertainment, like can all be done alone nowadays. So that was an interesting thought to hear about all of that. And I was trying to relate that to, because I think about Exodus, and a big piece of what Exodus is like the fraternity and being together with a group, and how, like, for us as Catholics and what our faith is about is a lot of community. So like one thought that I had was just, what is it for us as Catholics that can create more of a like community type atmosphere, you know what I mean? And it's like, obviously those things that you can do, like an Exodus journey with like a group of people, can be very uplifting, and I think something that we might all need at certain points in our lives. But like, what is it that is within our church teachings and the ways that we live that can help like create community? Because I know for me, I do prefer to be alone in certain times. Like I just enjoy my alone time. But I love being with friends, right? So for us, like as men, that was one of the biggest things in the statistics, is that the numbers are more drastic in men than women as far as the time that they're spent alone. And I think a lot of it is just life, right? Like we get men
are more alone.
more alone. Life's busy, right? Like I look at my week and I'm like, I go to work, I come home, and I have to be, you know, a dad or a husband, and then it's okay, I'm tired. Like I got to restart and do my day all over, like the next day. And then the weekends come and it's like, I got a million things going on, you know? So it's like, what are those things that can be helpful for us as like men to create just more community?
I feel like I push my alone time. Like like you were saying, sometimes you crave that alone time. Like I feel like I get mine like probably around 10 o'clock at night, and then I'll stay up a little longer than I should, and what am I doing? I'm doing nothing. I'm watching dumb videos, or, you know, I'm not taking in anything like, you know, worthy, but I'm like like you said, you come home after having a long day, and then you got to jump right into something of like, all right, I got to be a dad right now. Like today, I literally came home and had to change a diaper. And I was like, all right. And then after that, I cleaned something and then literally went to go do leaves and try to get rid of that before it starts getting colder and colder and the snow starts coming. And and by the time you get the kids down, you're exhausted and you're staying up longer just to try to like refresh.
Just unwind.
Yeah.
Before bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that definitely, 100%. I wonder if that's the nature of like why that decline is happening. Is like, are we becoming busier to the point where like we want more alone time? You know what I
Right?
mean?
Where it's like I almost feel like I need to be on all day long, like between work, between family, and that it's like I just need some time to relax. But then it's like, shouldn't I miss though being able to like have a friend that you can just kind of like relax and unwind with, right? But that's just the nature of life. It's harder for me to just text one of my friends and be like, "Hey, come over," like it's
Right.
Thursday night, and then it's like, well, that's where I have Ronnie. Like she's my friend. Like I get to hang out with her. Like that's my time. So, but yeah, it was an interesting statistic to hear about.
Yeah, well, going back to what you're saying about like what can we do as men and as a community, of like-minded people. Like what I do, so I'm someone who I love one-on-one time with people. Like that's kind of where I like thrive and like really blossom, is when it's just me and another person. And so what I try to do is like every week I try to like reach out to one person and like I want to hang out with you this week. So it'll be like some family or like the in-laws, or it'll be priests or my bros or whatever it is, and I'll just like message someone and be like, yo, can you do something this week, and so I try to make an effort in that regard to like where I'm reaching out to people, because there's that flip side too, is like some people get so busy that like they're not going to reach out to you, and so I always try to be the one that's like, let's do this, let's go grab a beer, let's go to see a movie, let's whatever it is. So I try to do that on like a weekly basis with at least one person. That way I can kind of get outside of my, the regular humdrum of the day, dad and husband life. But then also I can like invest in another person who, reciprocates, and then we can kind of, yeah. So that's one way, I guess.
Yeah. And it takes a very concentrated effort to do something like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I definitely do feel like there is a very positive, like rewarding feeling when I get to just spend time with my friends. Like it's just, this is a nice refresh. Yeah, because I was thinking about it a bit more, and I was just like, I just think the nature of my life makes things harder to spend time with other people. But it is valuable. That's what I'm kind of getting at, and I see for us, like I could see how it is important. I mean, I value the fact that we get to hang out each week and do this, right?
This
like
is
this
my
is
hangout.
Exactly. Like this is a great part of the week. As tired as we are after a long week, it's always nice to come together and talk. So I guess I wasn't really surprised with the numbers to hear that they're declining, but it did reaffirm to me like the importance of it. And maybe that's something that we all need to think about a little bit. It's like, how can we help affect that and let that be something that is a positive?
One thing Josh said too is I think I'm guilty of it, is just like you're too busy and like you have that urge to like want to reach out, but then it's like, it's too much effort. Like, so you just feel that way. Yeah, it's hard to see people too when you have children and just like to get away, because then if you're leaving, then you're leaving your significant other at home alone with them. So then it's harder for them to deal with that. It's hard when you have multiple kids, and even one itself, when they're in the toddler stage, is like having two kids. But so there's always that. And one thing too is like you can add to the number of like being alone. Like I feel like men also don't really talk their feelings out, and that's why like the sad thing is like the men's suicide rate is like skyrocketing. It's scary.
I'm so big on this, and I know like this is kind of the world that we exist in. Like men, you know, we don't talk about this stuff. We don't like do all that, and for the longest time, like I believe that too, because like we as men, we don't want to be vulnerable. You know, we don't want to like open up ourselves to other people because the fear of rejection and you know, it's just weird that it's not really something that we guys do. Like I've been trying to do that, and I've been trying to do that with my guy friends especially. I'll like open up and just say like this is what's going on in my life. Like, but like when someone asks you like how are you, like as opposed to just saying that's great, everything's fine,
Yeah.
everything's
I'm
fine,
good.
you know. But instead of doing that, like being honest and saying, well, this week sucked, and this is why. You
And then
know?
they go,
And like,
okay, whoa, like relax.
well, no, because if it's a good friend, they want to hear that.
Exactly.
You know?
Yep.
And so I'm so big on that. Like, it's for me, like I found so much maturity in myself. Like the moment that I just said, you know, let me just get this stuff out. Let me just talk about this stuff, you know? Yeah.
And it creates just a deeper relationship.
Yeah.
Especially with that person, because then they can feel, hey, like, all right, I can open up to them if I ever am kind of dealing with things. And
Yeah.
it's harder to do that. So because I agree with that. I think that that's a great thing. And I do find myself, I think, opening up to my friends when I can. And I think it's harder now because I see people less. So when we are spending time together, I'm not just going to like kind of dump what's going on in the past week in a sense where it's like, I haven't seen you in so long. So like we want to either like catch up on important things or we just want to be together here in this moment. Right. So there is such value to that. Definitely. I definitely want to.
Yeah, you have to have that one friend. Even though, I have one of my best friends who lives in Colorado, and we talk almost every day on the phone, and like that's who I like vent to, and he vents back, and like I feel like that's where I get my mental, you know, like able to get through things, you know.
Yeah. And I feel like that's important. I think
Yeah.
you need that as much as I love, and I'll tell Veronica everything. Right. And we'll
Yeah,
talk,
same, I
but
told
it's
you.
like, there is something different that you just, it just feels different when you can tell it to your best guy friend, you know, over your wife or your significant other. There's just different when it's guys.
It's different when it's a significant other or wife or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
wife,
yeah.
because we're.
And and me in my own personal life, like I have people who are close to me who have never opened up about anything. And like they have that nature where it's like I'm unable to talk about stuff. And you just see how it's destroying them, you know? And so that was the big thing for me, just realizing like the importance of being vulnerable and what it does for you as a person. And like the healing of it too, you know, like, because I think a lot of people have a lot of baggage and wounds and all these issues and stuff. And I think if people were just comfortable with just opening up to somebody, anybody, like, a best friend, a spouse, somebody, then I feel like, you know, the amount of, I honestly, like maturity it just explodes. It just explodes. And yeah, and your happiness and this healing comes and yeah.
There's two types of guys, like you were kind of saying, like how like you tell someone something and they're like, oh yeah, sorry, or like someone who like gives you insight or tries to give you advice. I was thinking of Avatar: Last Airbender where Sokka was telling Zuko, he goes, oh, my first girlfriend got turned into the moon, and he just turned, he's like, that's rough, bud. So there's two types of people who will like listen to you, or there's like, oh, that's rough, bud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just the value and the importance of having that companion to turn to. Definitely.
And like you said, Josh, a lot of people do have these wounds that they leave, like that they just throw a little bandage over, and they leave it unattended, and your soul needs to get it out. If you're not gonna like talk it out and so even the confession, but you need like that companion that you can talk it out with and like
I mean,
bounce things off of and try to think, or this happened to me and this, you know.
Yeah, exactly. But then someone who can affirm you, who can love you, like actually love you, you know. And I think that's important to have that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what do I know?
Yeah. Yeah. So talk to someone if you're a guy. Girls, you can talk to someone too, but I'm pretty sure you guys are good at that.
Open up.
You'll be all right.
Open up. Find a bud.
Yeah.
All right, I'm glad we had some
Hit
good
some
conversations.
Giant
today.
topics today. Holy
Yeah.
cow. Louise.
Who thought that? I didn't know that. Waking up at 4 a.m, I didn't know we were gonna have these great conversations. But let's do our draft. Our
wow, yeah.
We got a good
annual
one.
draft. We are doing cartoon dogs. I believe I start off. Josh won last week.
Oh,
So
yes.
Josh is the mustard seed champ this week.
The champ is here.
The champ. Let's see if I can. Right over here. Yeah.
Here, Josh, hold it up. I'll take a picture. We'll put it on Instagram. There we go. Boom.
I like it.
Send that to you, Rye.
Cool. I'm gonna take notes on this one.
All right, so I start off this week, right?
Yep.
Um,
So what's our topic?
we are doing cartoon dogs this week.
I love this topic. I think this is a
So-
great topic.
I start off, and then what? Josh, and then you, right? Or me, right? Me, or Josh is middle. So me, then you,
Yes.
right?
I started.
You
it
started
time.
last
Yeah, so
time.
I'm starting.
So
So I am.
it'd be.
I
So,
start.
Yep. You, me,
Right,
Josh.
and
'Cause-
Yep.
Yeah. Boom, boom, boom.
We got it.
Okay. I'm
It's like a-
starting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done this many times and we can't figure it out. But I am taking. I don't care. He's a dog. I'm taking Goofy. I don't care what people
Whoa.
say that he's a cow. No, a cow. He's a dog. And Goofy is the #1 pick overall.
I thought that it is very funny when
They
there
try to
are.
say he's a cow.
Yeah. Well, there are like.
Get out of here.
I've
Like-
never heard of that. Cow? Some people think he's a
It's
cow.
ridiculous.
Well, because he it
You know
doesn't.
what it is? It's
'cause-
idiots.
Well, isn't that because of
God-hating people who say that Goofy's a cow.
what's her name? Isn't Clarabelle,
Clarabelle.
the cow,
She's
and
a
they
cow.
like each other, right? Like there's.
Yeah, but his son
So
is
that's
clearly
why-
a dog.
But isn't that funny when there are other examples of it? But like, so Goofy is a dog and he runs around and hangs
And
out,
Pluto
and then
is
Pluto
a-
is a dog too, and he. So, I think that's funny the way it is. All right, so you got a Goofy.
Yeah, I'm taking Goofy.
Okay, so I'm gonna Max from The Grinch.
Oh, there you go. That's a good one.
nice. Yeah.
Staying with the Christmas theme, I think Max is just a great dog's name,
Mhm.
and I think he's one of the funnier pieces of
R.I.P. the Maxi boy.
Maxie boy.
All right,
Max
so
and
I
Billy.
have two, right?
Yes, you got two.
All right, so I'm gonna take Snoopy
Nice.
and I'm gonna take Pluto.
The rivalries: Pluto versus Goofy. How do you think? Yeah, Pluto's got to be like, Mickey, I'm tired of this. Goofy gets to run around
Come
on
on,
two
man,
legs.
jeez. Yeah, why can't I be anthropomorphic?
All right, so back to me.
Mm.
Okay. Goddard from Jimmy Neutron.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
So I get two. I'm going to take Slinky from Toy Story.
Oh, that's a great
Oh,
one. I was gonna
yeah.
take that. I thought I could get
And-
it on the end.
I'm going to take Bandit from Bluey. That's the dad.
Ooh,
Oh, there you go. That's good.
that's a good one. All right, back to me. I'm gonna take Doug from Up.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, nice.
I was like, Doug Funny?
Doug.
His dog is Pork Chop. No, I like that one. Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, I'm gonna pick for my last one, the last pick, Underdog.
Ooh.
Remember that? It was like an old show.
Yes.
Underdog.
Underdog.
So, wait.
That
who
was
were
like
your first
Cartoon
two?
Network.
So yeah,
Pluto and Snoopy.
Snoopy and
Oh,
Pluto.
no one took
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo.
Oh,
Honorable mention.
Overrated.
Poor Scooby.
Ruh-roh.
Poor Scooby.
Yeah, Scooby is a very popular one. I thought that would be.
Scooby, and you took Snoopy, right?
Yeah, some other mentions. Lady and the Tramp.
Mm.
Mm.
And then
dogs.
I don't know his name, but Oliver and Company, that dog who wore that bandana, the cool dog. I don't know if you ever saw Oliver. and
Yes,
Company.
Yeah.
I don't know his name, but I always liked him. And that was one of the Disney movies where they actually like pulled a gun on.
Yeah.
So I was like, whoa.
I forget. It was like over quarantine or something. Claire was like, "We have to watch this movie." I grew up watching it. I loved it. It was an amazing movie. Like she's like, talked it up, all this stuff, and we watched the whole thing. And I was like, "That movie sucked."
It is funny when you watch movies from like I have this idea of what it was
Yeah,
and
yeah,
what
yeah,
it actually is. So
Yeah.
it's
Well, as a kid, like everything great, you know.
yeah, no, exactly. Cool.
Well, there you have it.
Cool. So let's wrap it up with a quick sales pitch for the end of the episode here. So since we're in Advent, the one line or the one word for today is hope. And that's our sales pitch, hope. The hope, like this season is a reminder for us. And I thought this was great timing just for me and my faith journey, because I realized that like over these past few weeks, I was really kind of like grinding through my faith. Like I just felt like I was going through it and it just didn't feel like it was resonating, and I couldn't understand why. And I realized that a lot of it was just my perspective on life and how Advent is an awesome reminder of hope. And hope is life with Jesus and eternal life, but also the hope that there is a Savior, and that is Jesus in the manger, and that there's hope for the life that we are here to live. And it kind of ties into even what we talked about this morning, in the beginning of this episode, like just the hope of heaven and the hope of always having that option to turn to God, and that He can kind of fulfill that hope. So one of the lines from Rudy that I will kind of tie this in is, having dreams is what makes life tolerable. I love that line. And I think that can translate into hope, that having hope makes life worth living.
Yeah.
Like without hope, what are we really striving for? So I think that is a reminder for us. And that is kind of one of our selling points today for our faith, is that it gives us hope and it makes life worth living. So we can strive for Jesus and have the hope that we'll be saved. So,
No, but man, that's great.
cool.
Perfect.
Good stuff. Stay rooted in Christ. We appreciate you guys. Check out Josh and Claire's album.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
Something
we forgot
happened
to do
this
it in the
week.
beginning.
I can put that in the beginning, yeah.
It's out. You can get it at Spotify. Check out in the bio. You can go to their website and help them out. Buy a copy. Help them get some Christmas presents.
Yeah.
Listen to
Fight
Christmas
this
songs while
inflation.
you buy it. Yeah, but yeah, it's really good. A lot of people are checking it out, and be one of them.
I saw there was a release. I think it was the top 100 songs on Spotify, top 100 albums releases, and Josh and Claire's were number one. So it's been pretty big.
It's really blowing up, yeah. That's news to me, too.
And we appreciate you guys. Please like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for subscribing. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.
Stay rooted in Christ.